Okay, so let me get into exactly how Xynth works. So Xynth is a combination of the most powerful AI model in the world with the most extensive data suite for retail traders. So that means that we have access to options flow data, insider data, dark pool data, the screeners you see on TradingView with 500 plus fields that you can screen on, fundamentals data that you see on Yahoo Finance, SEC filings, tweets through the X API, and news data through Google. So with that, what this basically allows you to do is build some really interesting automations, signals, and skills. And I'll show you today through a user story exactly how these three things work in tandem to make retail traders more money. So let's go into the signals first. Here we have the dark pool signal, and you'll see that the signal is holding a bunch of positions right now. Some of them are green and some of them are red. And it tells you exactly why these positions are being held. IONQ saw $405 million in dark pool volume, 22% of its 30-day average, after surging 78.7% in the last 60 days. So that's the reasoning for this one. So each of these sort of signals are basically automations that are running in the cloud that automate strategies that have worked previously for either the team here at Xynth or our power users. So this specific strategy looks for dark pool prints that make up at least 0.8% of the stock's 30-day volume, and the stock has already been up 25% in the last 60 days, and so on and so forth. Basically a bunch of filters over data that emails you and alerts you if you subscribe to it whenever something like this pops up. So I'll show you exactly why that's important. So this is a chat of a user that essentially used that signal to help him make some money. So he saw that EQT was basically part of the alert, so he subscribed to that alert, and then he got an email. So he told Xynth, please deep dive EQT and tell me whether it's bearish or bullish. And then he attached three different skills with it, one for SEC filing, the other one for ticker deep dive, and one of them for deep news search. And these skills basically tell Xynth how to perform in a way where the answers are more comprehensive and reliable. So Xynth starts by pulling all this data. We have the squeeze trading chart, we have the gamma walls, intraday options flow, we have the IV and the RV, realized volatility, and then we also have the squeeze scorecard and a bunch of other more data sources that it pulls. After pulling this data, it basically ranks these metrics compared to the stock's baseline. So for the fundamentals, the biggest thing is that the revenue has been accelerating for the past year, 64% year over year. Insider trades, $22.2 million net in the last 6 months. And the dark pool activity is 25% of the average daily volume. And then after that, it looks through all the SEC filings with sub-agents. So these are AI sub-agents that are basically digging through the SEC filings, looking for things like production volume forecast, growth capital expenditure, and you can see here that it cites exactly which filing it got what data from. And there's some more on the other page. And then after that, it does a news search to keep itself up to date with EQT's current market regime, or any news that's important. It then goes through Twitter, FinTwit to be specific, to look at what the consensus on EQT is. Finally, it charts EQT and then marks the most important levels. Here it has support, gamma flip, and resistance. Then for each of the confluences that we discussed, Xynth marks it either bearish or bullish. So here we can see that it's a mix. There's some things that are mildly bullish, there's some things that are strongly bullish, and there's things that are bearish. So because it's a mix, I think Xynth ended up suggesting that it's a bull lean, but not totally bullish either. So the person then uses the what options trade should I make skill and asks Xynth to use this research to make the best possible options trade. And then he sets a budget for $1,000 and a time horizon for 1 month. Xynth then digs through all the options expiration dates for EQT and also pulls the recent flows for EQT. Then it runs a bunch of strategies through our options calculator, which tells it the probability of profit for each strategy, and the max profit, and the credit for each of the strategies with different legs. So the trade that came out on top here was an EQT bull put credit spread. Basically, Xynth was telling the user to sell a put with capped risk by also buying a put. And the user basically ends up taking this trade and tells Xynth to make a workflow for him that constantly monitors his position and tells him whether or not he needs to roll, sell, or add to his position. And we can click into his alert workflow right here, and we'll see that this is the dashboard that he gets emailed every single time a change of position is needed. And this is the workflow that's constantly running in the cloud. So there's steps to it. Each step has a code step that basically filters a bunch of data. Here it's pulling his contract's current price, and then here it pulls EQT's current price and compares it to his break-even price, so $50, and then it alerts him on whether or not he needs to add or roll his position. So then the user was actually able to make some money off of this. As we can see here, he pastes in his profits and asks Xynth to explain exactly why he was able to make money. Xynth basically explains that because you entered on July 2nd and by July 6th, the price of the stock had only dropped $1, you were able to collect $333 on the premium that you sold. So this basically encapsulates the whole three-step process of how people are using Xynth. So with signals, they use that for ideation. They get alerted whenever there's some interesting things going on, and then they use skills to sort of take that idea to execution by researching the processes along with it to see exactly if there's conviction or not. And then with automations, they use them to sort of set up workflows to monitor their positions and then maybe even set up their own signals by constantly scanning for things in the market. Because Xynth has the ability to code over all this data, 300 plus endpoints that we talked about, it's able to make some pretty interesting automations that you'll see on here. And we also do have a community use cases section where you can see exactly how people are using Xynth. Thank you for watching.